Conservative New Media viewers, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, the four-time national champion, the super genius, and the political expert, joined by Paul at Villarreal by phone. And woo-wee, this is a huge win for Donald Trump tonight. Donald Trump has crushed in the New York primary. And just when people said that Cruz had momentum and that, you know, that Wisconsin reset the race, whatever, Paul, this last 2 weeks has been absolutely masterful in my personal opinion. First of all personal opinion only, not alleging facts, not casting any aspersions, all for entertainment purposes only. Please check the disclaimers. First of all, I want to say a few things here. Number one, Donald Trump has crushed the critics again. Number two, all these prognosticators and the Never Trump and the insiders and whatever, they really got crushed, Paul. I feel like they fell for a trap from Donald Trump. This is almost like Sun Tzu with military type of precision and strategy in terms of Donald Trump. Trapping them in this situation, I almost feel like I'm watching Gladiator or something like that. Trapping these dudes, oh my goodness. What's going on? Someone's brought out the stuff over here. Look at her. Oh, she's having a party.
I'm so happy.
What? You're taking over my? Are you taking over my video? All right. Good. Okay. What's going on? Wow. I can't even control her. You see what I'm talking about? Now here's what I'm talking about right here. Paul, I feel like they kind of fell for the bait, if you will. That Trump sprung the trap in this whole dialogue and narrative of the insiders rigging the system is what Trump was talking about with the Colorado situation. There were situations, I've heard of reports of Georgia, Virginia, Wyoming, voterless victories is what he was talking about Cruz. And Cruz was trying to position himself as the constitutional conservative and trust Ted and the outsider and stuff like that. But Paul, in these last few weeks, it's really, in my personal opinion, perhaps been exposed as playing the most insider of games. And I think the voters, at least in New York, have definitively turned against him. And you've seen Cruz's polls plummet. And I don't think anyone before tonight predicted this level of victory for Trump in terms of, at the as we're seeing it right now, as we're shooting this video, I think Trump's hovering right around the 60% mark. You probably are on the computer, can talk to me, can see more specifically on that. And he might win as high as delegates into the 90s in New York. And I saw people talking about maybe it was going to be 60, 75. Paul, this is an explosive win for Donald Trump, is it not?
It's a gigantic win. And it's just like you said, this has been building up since Wisconsin happened, and definitely since what happened in Colorado, where people have characterized it different ways, but the voterless election. And since that period of time, there have been several new national polls that have come out, and all of them have seen a steep decline in Ted Cruz's numbers, I believe, and an increase in Donald Trump's numbers. So what happened with Colorado, as you mentioned, allegations about Wyoming and Georgia, Missouri, what's going on with these supposed voterless elections, meaning that officials or they're selecting delegates that might not be loyal to Donald Trump on the second ballot of the convention, and that is turning people away from Ted Cruz, and it looks like it's turning them to Donald Trump. So tonight was kind of, we really got a test of where that was. And as you said, as I look right now on the computer, I think it's 70, 75% of the state in, 60% for Donald Trump, and it looks like he's winning every single congressional district of the 27 involved. So this is big. This is massive.
This is a massive, massive win. And now Donald Trump, I believe if I have my math right, Paul, is going to be well into the 800s, middle 800s, I think, in terms of delegates. Really, really commanding lead, almost 300-ish. Actually, yeah, should be around 300-ish above. Go ahead.
I want to say that if he gets 90 tonight, I think he came in we don't know that. That's just a ballpark figure, but there are stars. At least one slight estimate is going to get 91 tonight. I think that would put him at about 850 47, which is, I mean, you're getting up there now.
Yeah, right around, I think, like we're talking about, close to 300 above Ted Cruz. And then we have Pennsylvania coming up and Maryland coming up.
Let me just say this. I'm sorry to interrupt. Speaking of Ted Cruz, it looks like he's going to win 0 tonight. And in fact, some people are speculating that he might even be mathematically eliminated from getting to 1,237 tonight. I'm not sure about that, but because he looks like he's going to win nothing, that really hurts him.
We heard about Trump's ceilings and all this type of stuff. I mean, getting 60% about plurality is not a majority. I mean, this is 60% in a very blue overall state, New York City. I mean, and then like you said, you know, to have Ted Cruz getting not only third, but a distant third. I mean, he's like what, 14, 15%? You've got Trump at 60%. I mean, Kasich is, go ahead. Kasich is beating Cruz.
Let me just say this really quickly. You and I both know, because you and I both lived in New York State. New York State is much more than just New York City. You're talking about tons of upstate rural places, farms, way away from the city. So he's winning a diverse group of people tonight. This is big.
Well, there's no question about it. You've got Buffalo, New York, and you had, you know, Rex Ryan out there at one of his rallies. You've got Long Island. You've got New York City. You've got Westchester. You've got Albany. You've got Syracuse. You've got Ithaca. You've got a very diverse state. You've got rural. You've got the most urban situations there. A mix of it, and Trump is crushing all of it, and Cruz is getting crushed, in my opinion. That is devastating. And now you're still in Trump country, coming up with Connecticut and Maryland and Pennsylvania and these other, you know, contests coming up that I think really favor Trump. People are trying to talk about Indiana or California, but remember, on that last day, you also have New Jersey and Governor, which is right across from New York, and Governor Chris Christie has already endorsed Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has presence there with, or at least he did, with the casinos and everything like that. So I mean, you have in these real estate developments, you have so much momentum in Trump's future, in my opinion, and people see it now. I'm seeing it right on the TV. They're putting Trump at about 840 in terms of delegates. People, I think, understand, and particularly, let me just make this quick point, particularly, Paul, with what has just happened in Wyoming and Colorado with these quote-unquote voterless victories. I think that people are now going to crystallize on the, honestly, on the reality of if you're a voter in the Republican primary, or you either vote for Donald Trump to control your own destiny, meaning the voters have the input and the voters are the ones that are going to choose, or somehow, some way, the convention, the delegates, the insiders, however you want to spin it, may decide for you. And I think the voters are rejecting that, and I think that's part of the huge victory tonight.
I completely agree with that. That's why some was celebrating, or partly why that's why we're happy. Yeah, we want the people to make the decisions. Look, I've lived in Indiana, lived in Terre Haute, Indiana. You know, our mother did. People there, they're not going to go for the big wigs overruling the voters. That is not going to work. And I think that now that Ted Cruz has been more identified with as an insider than an outsider, then that momentum that people want for an outsider in this election is all going to Donald Trump. And as you said, it's really crystallized in his huge victory tonight. And I will say this, Rudy Giuliani said tonight, Ted Cruz is only a sectional candidate, and he couldn't even win the sections of the state he should have been able to. Newt Gingrich said before tonight that if Ted Cruz finished a distant third, it could totally change the race. And right now, I'm looking at the percentages. Ted Cruz is 10 points back of John Kasich,
Wow.
who doesn't even have a chance to win.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's devastating, and I'm seeing it on Facebook. And you see a lot of the most strident Cruz supporters. They seem to be silent out there. I think there's an understanding out there crystallizing, and I think the voters have clearly spoken. And so this is what I want to do. Let's quickly spin it forward because I want to do another video right after this talking about my sort of proposals or suggestions for the GOP rules for the convention that I think that maybe people could support. We'll get to that next. So right now what I want to talk about is this, Paul. Big victory for Donald Trump. What impact do you expect it to have on the race? Do you feel like this gives Trump major momentum? What kind of chance do you think he can get 1237 or close enough that he can scoop up enough unbound delegates on the first vote? Where does this put Trump? Where does this put Cruz? Where does this put the race in your opinion? And I'll wrap it up.
I think this definitely puts Trump in a position to be able to get the 1,237 delegates that he needs going into the convention to be the nominee. I think this is a springboard for that. Is he going to get there? We don't know, but this certainly helps to this overwhelming victory for Cruz. It's a gigantic setback. I mean, if he wins no delegates or one or two, I mean, in a state with 95, he looks like he can't compete. And if you're going to nominate somebody like that, say he went against Hillary Clinton in this state, think of all the down ballot GOP people that could get wiped out because of that. So this is a big setback for Ted Cruz tonight and a big win for Donald Trump. For John Kasich, I mean, he wasn't, I don't think he was ever going to be the nominee in the first place.
Look, I have to agree. I mean, here's what I think, because I'm the political expert. I think Ted Cruz, in my opinion, at this point is definitely, well, let me put it this way. I think Ted Cruz is most likely significantly damaged goods, in my opinion. Meaning this: A, you can't be endorsed by so many insiders, play a total insider game, have, so many connections to the Bush family, and then somehow claim you're an outsider and the true outsider, whether it's Tea Party or whatever like that. That's number one. Number two, I think that the whole New York values thing, what you talked about, Donald Trump hung this around his neck like a millstone. How in the world is is Ted Cruz, if he were potentially the nominee, going to compete in the Northeast, and what kind of impact is that going to have on the down ballot candidate and stuff like that? You see New York reacting resoundingly, the voters, to that. I think that is extremely negative. And I think just the whole mix, Cruz was sort of mixing it up, in my opinion, with Sean Hannity on his show. I think that there's really sort of a picture being painted of Ted Cruz. It seems like as this process goes on, there are parts where Cruz seemed to have momentum, but I think that he's not wearing so well with the voters. And this seems to be the MO for Ted Cruz with the DC insiders and the Senate and his Senate colleagues and on and on and on. A lot of smarts, a lot of horsepower, a lot of potential, but somehow he doesn't seem to play so well in the sandbox with others, in my opinion, perhaps. And I think that there's somehow, well, let me put it maybe a little bit better way. Somehow something is up with Ted Cruz, perhaps, where I don't think the dogs are eating the dog food, Paul. You understand what I'm talking about with that? Comment on that, and I'm going to come back and finish it.
I do, and I think the way to say it, and I've seen this on some of the different sites that we checked out, is it looks like Ted Cruz now has an authenticity problem.
I've said that from the beginning. I'm talking about the mask dropping. How long have I been saying that? About Ted Cruz and authenticity and the phoniness and everything. I've said that from the beginning.
You're right. You were way ahead of that before me. I still kind of believed in Cruz and whatever. And you're like, no, I don't know about this guy, and that's what everybody else is starting to say too.
Yeah, and the thing is, honestly, it's a shame because I feel like, there's so much potential there. Not that obviously he's been extremely successful in life. I'm not saying like this. I'm talking about as a politician. I'm talking about someone for the conservative cause. I just feel like, maybe he feels like it's almost too cute by half. like he's the smartest in the room, trying to fool everyone. It just, you know, it's, I don't know. It's just a weird thing, man. It's just a weird, I can't get comfortable with it. You know what I mean? I feel like it's the insiders playing another game. I feel like it's Wizard of Oz and someone's gonna pull the curtain out. It just, I mean, the pausing, the over emoting with the stuff. It just feels like such an act, all of it, and that's unfortunate because beneath that, I feel like there's someone there that has conservative values and has ability. But the thing of it is, Paul, and I think that the voters are saying this so much on both sides right now. If you don't have the authenticity, if you don't have the average American and the average voters back, if you're playing this insider's game, if you're playing a rigged system, if it's crony capitalism, and if it's this quasi-aristocracy, the voters are saying we don't want it. Because they understand that they want a big change right now in this election, in my opinion, and that's exactly the opposite of what people are all about. Now, that's what my opinion. The second thing I want to say about this is I feel this gives tremendous momentum to Donald Trump. I'm not saying that he's going to get to 1237. I'm not saying that he's not. I just can't make that prediction right now. But I'm willing to say this. I would be surprised at this point, after this win, if Donald Trump, one way or the other, wasn't the Republican nominee. Paul, what do you think about that?
That is what was said, and I apologize for the gap there. I was just looking at something quickly. I believe that Geraldo Rivera and a couple of other people said that a few minutes ago on the Sean Hannity show, TV show. I think the people are starting to become more and more kind of in tune with the idea that it's looking more and more like Donald Trump's going to be the nominee one way or the other.
Right. I think Trump's upped his game. I think he's getting a lot of professionals involved. I think this win was just super strong. I think Ted Cruz has shown a lot of flaws and a lot of the earlier things he said are coming back to bite him. I think the insider game has been exposed and people are rejecting that. And I think when you coalesce all those things, I think it's going to really benefit Donald Trump, and I think that he's very likely to win. And honestly, because of the victories he's won and the delegates he's won and the states that he's won and the votes that he's won, he should be the nominee. And we're going to talk about that next in the next video about my proposed rules for the Republican Party/convention that I think will help, in my opinion, solve a lot of these sort of issues and contentions and stuff like that, at least in the future and stuff like that. So anyway, big win for Donald Trump. My name is John. That is Paul. That is Tom over there trying to inject yourself in the video, which is great. I understand they're excited. I am the political expert, the super genius, and the 4-time national champion. That is Paul, the NBA expert. Huge win for Donald Trump. Congratulations to Trump. A lot of things we're going to see. It's not over yet. In a way, this is exciting for a lot of states because these now states that never were maybe in play or like it was decided before it got to them. It seems like everyone's going to get a real serious voice in this election right now, from Iowa all the way through California and New Jersey. So that's pretty cool in a way. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.